Kyra or Larry else?
All three of them would be good. Yep. All right, we'll look at that last, essentially.
Okay.
Do you mind just taking a seat here so we can?
Yeah. Go between the two?
Yeah. And if you have the, so we have your assessment here. Okay. Okay, great.
30 are multiple choice questions. I threw out 4 and 5 because the way that mine copied, you couldn't see the graph. I didn't really think this too ready in my drive.
Okay. Okay.
But
You
the
mean this graph?
strands, yeah. So if you look, the blue-green algae, line is not like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I had a lot of kids struggling with that, and so I talked to McPhee about it. He's like, that's fine. So.
All right. I want to start off with, so with the data analysis doc, look through, did kind of the same type of process. So I saw that you had like the spiraled objectives, but did you get to in session like going through the actual mastery distractors?
We did, but we didn't like put it up like it's kind of weird the way that we did our data analysis. So I have like on School Runner, I have the results, and I know it like says how many. Net assessment. Okay, so this is what we spent time doing, was going through the analysis and like looking at like the mastery of like, okay, like circles is an area like across the board we're really low in. And then like has the percentage of distractors on there.
I would recommend, I know for time saving technique, that's good. I would definitely put it in here because the one thing that I did really want to do is look at the predicted versus actual on this. So always do the predicted first, but if you take that same information and just follow the steps up here, you can quick copy and paste them into this document so that when we roll this meeting, we don't have to have like a bunch here. I think also with the distractors, did you do distractor analysis specifically on those strands? No. Okay. I found that to be really informative, particularly with this test, because I think it's pretty clear what weaknesses they have, particularly in circles. It's interesting, based on the distractors that they have. So if you follow these directions, and my suggestion would be to do this first before you even roll into the collaborative meeting. Put this all in. We can just like download results. That's basically, and definition has all that information cut, pasted in there. You can get kind of an idea of like what the issues were prior to rolling the collaborative meeting. And then go to scholar analysis, then to action plan. That's kind of the order I do. So did you all get to scholar analysis or anything?
I did that, no, we didn't. The one that I got to on my own was the action plan based on like conversations that we had. It wasn't, we didn't really have this open and we were working with it. It was like, we were doing some other things and then based on like conversations we had, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to implement.
Definitely do this for the next IA because in our meeting, there's only going to be so much we're going to cover. We'll be really isolated actually with what we'll probably cover. And so beyond that, you're going to want to create tutoring groups, make sure you're only targeting a few kids and not just like the whole grade for specific strands and so on and so forth. So definitely get to that next time. For this time, I want to look specifically at questions. So you mentioned circles were one of the focus areas for the session. I want to look, it's interesting. Okay, cool. This gives us a lot more information. Great. 3 sets of scholar work. If we look at the mastery of 25 and 35, the 2 circles questions, that represented the lowest, right?
7%, 16%, yeah.
Okay. If we look at those two questions, what's the breakdown on question 25? I'm going to isolate them, like what's the breakdown on 25 and what's the breakdown on 35? With 25, what's...
When you say the breakdown, you mean like the percentage?
No, like what's the breakdown scholar thinking?
I think first of all, like this idea that like this is not like an image that's given to me, so like having to first like draw.
Right.
I think the breakdown comes from they have to know that a lap race would mean circumference and that they're going 3 times around in order to find their answer. And so they would have to know the circumference formula, or they would have to know that the circumference. Cameron tried to teach something called CARD, and it's more like investigative instead of memorizing the formula. And that's something like I didn't teach, but he said like would make a difference.
Yeah.
But I think the way he puts up CARD and then he has like, okay, radius, double the radius is the D, diameter, 2 times the radius, and he goes on from there.
Okay.
It's kind of, I wrote it down on a piece of paper.
Okay.
So it's meant to be like really quick.
Okay. So what did the scholars do?
Most of them chose C as their answer,
Okay.
which is 3 pi r squared, which would mean that they were using area formula
Right.
instead of your correct answer.
So misunderstanding then is super clear, which is A, they didn't diagram, which would have helped them
Right.
with the major misunderstanding, but the misunderstanding in the end is what?
Like when to use area formula and when to use circumference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so the question is how to address that. So you're reteaching on Thursday
Yeah.
this specific misunderstanding.
Yes.
Are you going to try to, maybe it's a good time actually just to look at 35. So let's look at 35 because I feel like the nature of
This is
this
another
misunderstanding.
word problem that also like doesn't have a diagram.
So step number 1 that they're missing is what?
So just like not having like the visual there.
Yeah.
It's like always need to have a visual.
Let's just see out of curiosity. This is,
I have brought these. He did not do, or no, that's Shakira's. Shakira should show work for hardly anything.
let's see. I just want to see Larry L to see if that step made a difference for her in particular.
That was something that we practiced in tutoring too.
Look. All right, I can't see it on the screen, so I'm just going to figure it out. What is the breakdown? So, same breakdown with not diagramming, which, it's a simple 5-second diagram
Right.
that you could do. What's the breakdown here?
Again, like not conceptualizing, like I'm using the area formula here, and like I should have a circle, knowing that the dog's like leash could reach 9 feet in any direction. That's your, like, yeah. And so.
What did they? So they're not visualizing that. It seems like there is some sort of recognition of the parts. But what are they doing instead, based on the distractor?
So Shakira chose 20, it chose A, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't actually know how they're getting 28. Looking for the approximate area of the lawn in square feet.
Which, in this particular question, is like by far, 30% picked A.
Right, which is meant to be the distractor.
So, What's the breakdown there?
I don't know how A is like how they're choosing A. Like it's hard when they're not showing
Yeah.
words. So we have Larry L said pi times 9.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So, but pi times 9 isn't even a.
Right.
So it might be that they said pi, or that 9 is the diameter. So I'm using circumference formula to do 2 pi r or pi d. That would be the only thing I could think of. But if it says the area,
So I say this is just like they aren't using the formula.
yeah.
Right? Like they're getting confused as to like what they actually need to find, and they
Right.
like she doesn't even
Like
have the
that,
formula written
yeah.
down here. So question 25, the commonality is that they're not diagramming these things, which would be incredibly helpful for identifying the formula. That's like number 1. If they do that, then they'll be able to identify what do I actually need to do in these problems. So for number 25, it's that I need to find the circumference and not the area. So like that diagram helps with that. The addition with number 35 is like just not having the formula there, I think.
So here's my question.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
So whenever Cameron teaches card,
Mm-hmm.
he says that he starts off by giving them a worksheet that has something like 4, 8, 16,
Mm-hmm.
8, and then he's got his like pies in here,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then he does another one, and he leaves a blank in another one, right? And so like kids investigate and they say, oh, what's happening from here to here? Doubles. So then they don't actually have to know the formula of like R or D equals 2R. Okay, what's going from here to here? All right, this is squared, right?
Right.
Add pi.
Yeah.
And so in a way, like
Yeah.
they don't actually have to know the formulas
Yeah.
as long as they're doing this for every single problem.
Yeah.
They can say, okay, here's my circle, stake in the ground,
Yeah.
9 feet, radius 9.
Mhm.
Diameter is going to be 18,
Right.
area is going to be 81. Is that right? 81 pi. This is and so on, right?
Right.
And so, is that like? Would you recommend that versus trying to drill the formulas into their head?
So you have done the formula drilling, right?
I did formula drilling. Cameron did card drilling. Neither are really that successful at this point.
Right. I think the thing that we know is that we should do something different in the reteach,
Right.
and so it's worthwhile.
Okay.
I think this addresses one of the issues on 35. It doesn't address the issue that they don't know what they're finding
Right.
because of the visual. So like I think when we're talking about reteach on Thursday, I think goal here is to have them visualize, like draw a simple diagram and identify what they are finding and then implement card. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think those 2 first steps are really important because if I were reteaching this, I would want to simply give kids 30 scenarios. That's an understatement, not 30, but like 10 scenarios that are like these word problems and say, what in the end do you need to find? Like just what are you finding the area, are you finding the circumference?
This one even is still asking you the lawn itself.
Right. Mhm.
So you need to know that this is,
Yeah,
and like from there.
right.
So it's multi-step, and that's, I think, also.
Yeah. Right. I feel like I found an easier way though. No.
In that one.
In that particular one. 9.
So that would mean that like this is all, I guess they did say it was a square lawn?
Lawn in square feet, but the square feet is just a function of the fact that it's area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so it's pi r squared. I mean, it's simple.
Right, so it's literally just like
Yeah.
they need to have
They just need to know that they're finding.
their, okay.
So there, it's like, what are you finding? The area, sweet. I do carb, bam, done. If in the first one, the 25 is the one that I think I'm really. That's the one I would want to drive home the most. Because like I'm given a kind of like complicated scenario, but if I diagram and just tell, if I know what I'm finding, the problem is so much easier.
Right.
That seems to be like a huge breakdown. Like I don't know if it's area or circumference,
Okay.
and I need like.
And so then also, like, can I hit under here, like, scenarios when you use area versus circumference?
Exactly.
And so, like, talking about, that could look like laps,
Right.
that could look like times around the world, that could look like,
Yeah.
and like, area, that could, you know.
And when you're doing that, do it in the reverse order. So you're showing them the different problems, the variety of
And
problems.
say, what am I?
Yeah.
And so I guess that's really identified here.
So let's bring up the action step tracker. Do you have your,
This one?
or the Barnett action step tracker, the GDoc?
Oh.
We have the. Okay, first action steps, if you go to the planning action steps or observation, under week 9. So if we go to, and we're gonna go to LP action step. So step number 1, have scholars do a quick diagram of circle problems. Step 2 is have them identify if they're finding area or circumference. Step 3, implement card. Right, so it's like that order. Kids are doing that same routine each time. Now, question is like, how can this look then? So for Thursday, when we reteach, what do we have in terms of circle questions? Is there a bank? Can we quick find some?
There's not, I actually have to look for them, but
Okay.
circle word problems are fairly common.
Okay,
So I
cool.
know of a couple of websites that I found when I planned the original lesson that I
Okay.
can use.
Okay. If you take this, if you add or combine all 3 of those and then copy it in the action step, you're gonna have to put them in the same cell though.
So, for some reason I was having issues doing that.
Yeah, if you hit control or I'm sorry, the option key and shift and then return at the same time, that will take you down 1. Okay, let's find, so if you take that copy at the top left, it'll show on the initial screen. On that tab specifically. You copy it in the top left-hand corner. And then if you go to action step, you'll see they pop up there. Yeah, okay, so it's planning, all right. Let's get an example and then go through how we can reteach it with using one isolated problem, and you can just rinse and repeat for multiple.
Can you find one online? Or
Yeah,
are you gonna
yeah.
find one that-
Yeah, let's find one online, but that you will actually use, so we can see if that's kind of a creation of a problem.
Okay. Alright, so let's start with the first one. I would
Yeah.
probably erase this part because I don't want them to know that information. So a bike wheel has a diameter of 24 inches. How many revolutions will it take in order to have to travel 2 miles? Okay.
And that's a question that they would have.
So the
Amazing.
thing is, like, yes and no. It kind of depends on, like, it depends on the ACT. There will be circles, but a lot of times I actually see circles more so with diagrams than with word problems. But Cameron has been like hitting word problems pretty hard.
Yep.
Like that was an entire day itself was like circle word problems, and those are the only 2 circles that came up on there. So
Okay. Cool. Let's
I can also
copy and paste.
ACT. Okay.
Let's just copy and paste this into whatever document you'll use for Thursday.
I was planning on doing like a do now with the card stuff and then going from there and doing like a quick like mini lesson and then finishing up what we're supposed to do for 9-4
Cool.
in the English reading.
Cool. All right. So, step number 1 with this problem. So you could use this for intro to new video, right?
Right.
Here's the problem. What's your framing on why you're doing this?
I think when you see a word problem, it's typically like meant to intimidate you, but if you can quickly draw a picture and identify what you're trying to find, it's actually one of the easiest ways to boost your ACT score.
Cool. Quick hit. What else? Do they know that this is the weakest?
No, not yet.
Okay.
And then also like this is the weakest.
Right. This is the weakest spot. Grades are due today. I want to hit this hard so we can get some improvement. And these are quick hit problems. Okay. Great. That's framing.
So then
Now, the first step, they need to draw a picture. All right, I would have them, I don't think you need to show them how to do that, since, like, I think you say something to the fact, like, here's the deal. Step number 1 in doing these problems correctly is to simply draw a diagram. It takes you 3 seconds. Everyone right now draw a diagram of the situation. Then you can circulate and identify all of the kids who are doing the radius, right? Which is gonna be the most common problem. So once you see maybe more than 1 or 2, then you're like, hold up. Here's the deal. If you're currently doing the radius, or if you're currently drawing this and you draw it, or you take a kid's paper, what's the problem with that? So you can have the kids do all of that thinking and all of that figuring out on their own.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Okay. So you have a diagram. Now, second is, what do I need to find in this problem? So this is like the primary breakdown. Sorry, step number 1, what else would you look for? The radius would be a common problem. There's, I think, one other thing that would be.
What do you mean? Oh,
So-
another thing that they're.
Yeah, like, what do you want them to diagram,
I
aside from
want
the
them
wheel?
to diagram. If they have the diameter and it's a circle.
Mhm,
I mean, I'll want them eventually for step 3 to have card written off to the side.
mhm. I think there's one thing that I would want to see probably in a problem like this, or in a problem like this,
Okay.
which is like, great, we have the diagram. If we're talking about revolutions or laps, like for whatever reason, this is like a personal thing, but I think given the number of misunderstandings it would apply to everyone else, is like, if it's circumference or laps or rotations or whatever, I'm drawing like an arrow around and that indicates circumference. If it's area, I'm talking about, like, I think there's a breakdown. this isn't necessarily based on the data analysis or whatever, but like, I think there is a breakdown as to what area is of a circle.
Right.
Like kids
We
still.
talked about a lot. It was like, okay, if you have a pie, the circumference is the crust, the area is the entire pie. And that, that didn't stick with them. Like I'd hoped it would.
I think maybe when you diagram and you use these types of problems, you look for shading, like quick shading for area, and then arrows for circumference. And it's a quick visual for you to see if you do, honestly. All right, so yeah, the kid's on 35, then steak, and they know, oh, what is the area of the lawn, right? So I'm shading, so they know automatically I'm finding area.
Right.
You know. All right. Now, on to card. So, or I'm sorry, what do I need to find?
And have them like read the question, and when they draw, either shade or an arrow.
Yeah, I would push that maybe in the first one.
Okay.
Like, no kid is going to do that, right? You know that.
Okay. So it's
like,
a picture.
All right, you all did an awesome job of putting the diameter here, but you didn't show me or like diagram actually what you're trying to find. So hint, put arrows for circumference, put shade for area.
So then, when I'm looking at what I need to find, first, like, make sure like scholars know that we need to be talking about circumference.
Yeah. You want to ask them what? Have them produce that.
I mean, you could do like, okay, what's your formulas? Do we know if we're a circle? Which one best fits? And like have them like from there.
They won't, I don't know if they'll be able to transfer that because it's like a conceptual thing, right? So like the formula won't.
So I could also like show examples of like, this is what circumference problem, well no, because then you told me to do it the other way, so that.
Yeah, like this is where trying to teach them like formulaic ways is going to, they're gonna struggle using formulaic ways when they have like weird problems, you know? So it's almost like question by question, taking them through. So like here, it could be something like, what language in this problem indicates like what we actually need to do? All right, so revolutions, like you want them to key in on revolutions and how revolutions indicates that you're going around something. But you don't want to do it the opposite way because like if you teach them revolutions means this, like they're gonna get really tripped up when it's a different word substituting for revolutions. Do you know what I mean? So like I think if you just put the thinking on them, they will be able to
produce that.
Produce this.
What language indicates
So
what we need to do.
if they don't, if you say like, yeah, what language indicates and they don't correctly identify it, all right, let's hone in on revolutions. What does revolutions actually mean? What other words could mean the same thing? Like if you solve more problems. Yeah, like laps or going around or yeah. This is where you're gonna have to have them just dig deep.
Okay.
All right, they diagram, you go through those, they know to shade an arrow, then card. All right, how would card be implemented here? So like, if you could take me through like I'm a scholar.
Essentially, like, okay, so do now they've already like, hopefully been able to like put in the blanks. So then like, first thing that we're gonna do, let's say that we've got,
Or do you want to use the real? So we have like a diameter of 24.
oh, for the specific problem, you mean?
Yeah,
Cool. Alright, so we're gonna plug in what's given. We know what's given is the diameter, which is 24. That means that my radius is going to be, Ryan fell. Good, gonna be 12, right? Remember that this is half. So now if I know my radius is gonna be 12, and I'm looking for circumference, what am I doing from here to here? I know that I'm gonna have a pi. I'm going from 4 to 8. My answer is going to be
24.
24. But would I even worry about doing area with them for that, or is that gonna be too confusing?
Has Cameron, so,
He does this so that whenever they see a problem, they plug in what they know, and they know the
Yeah.
relationship between each letter.
I like this system. I'm wondering, so if you don't cover area, it's just like, we need to be 100% sure that kids know this is a circumference problem,
Okay.
you know? Which I just don't know if they will. I think if you really want to emphasize this is the first time they're gonna be doing it, then have them do everything. It's like, okay, we have this, now which one do we
Okay.
actually need? So kids just formulaically do this across the board.
Okay. So we're here.
Great.
Great. Which one of these best represents revolutions? Remember we talked about revolutions means times around.
Cool. Yeah, circumference.
Cool.
Perfect.
This is my answer.
Now, with this problem, it's confusing because it asks it asks how many revolutions will you need to make in order to have it travel 2 miles.
Right, which just means you're taking 24 pi
Yeah.
and multiplying it by 2.
Great.
But that's where it's going to be helpful. Wasn't there a part where we talked about revolutions? I think I could add something in here when we talk about that of like how many revolutions and like talk about like a layer that they're gonna add on the ACT is not just gonna be finding like one lap or one revolution. You're gonna have to find more than one.
Yeah.
So just like noting that off to the side. So maybe what we're actually looking for is an arrow with a 2. Arrow that explains revolutions 2.
Great.
So that they know that.
Right. So we have one problem. Rinse and repeat this 12 times. Or so, you know what I mean? Like, and they can just go, I think the more hits they do on this, the better. And feel free to use the same problems from the old IA.
Okay.
Because none of them, I mean, not none of them, but like, what do we have, 35? 16% of kids got it correct, so there's no reason to not use it again. All right, so you're doing mini lesson there, and then, sorry, what was the rest of Thursday?
So it's kind of weird because I'm the only one teaching 9-4. This week, everyone else has weird days off.
Okay.
And so I'm doing main idea, which is something that I feel like can be condensed because we're doing main idea of a paragraph on Wednesday. So then we'll be doing main idea of a passage. So it's like really similar ideas.
Okay.
So that's where I was like, okay, I can stick this in there.
Okay.
And I also don't think there's going to be too many seniors gone on convocation.
Okay.
That was my other concern. It's like, oh crap, am I going to have kids here? But
okay. My suggestion would be like you can really go through 12 problems. Like you can sit in this because they're such easy problems. Like this particular problem, so easy, would get 2 more points in.
Would you say even like wait to teach 9-4 when I have planned to do just circles, or try to do both?
Main idea is gonna take, or you said it could be 2 minutes.
I can also try to combine 9-3 and 9-4.
Yeah. My suggestion would be to do that. I think
9-3 and 9-4.
because if you say like, what am I going to move most in the next 3 weeks before they take the ACT for real?
Circles is gonna
I think
be
circle is the one that you could see the most movement.
Okay.
The other one is dependent like on a variety of factors.
Right.
I think.
Okay.
Okay, so that is planning. The other thing, just from the observation yesterday, really, really push deductions
Okay.
for scholars. I think there's just like low-level talking that we need to address to get out of the first rows of those.
So when I'm thinking about that, what is stopping me from giving the deduction is that there's so many. Do I have to address each one individually, or can I just say, hey guys, if you're talking right now, you're getting a deduction, and then move on?
Yeah, I think the key is to stop everyone, have everyone track you, do not talk over ever at all, and say like, this is the expectation. Those of you who are not meeting an expectation are getting level 0 deductions right now, back to work. And you can tie in like the bigger picture narrative pieces, because those do actually, in my experience, help kids like not react so poorly.
So like a narrative like in there is like your senior Rams, like in college, like your education is bringing you to a place in college where if you talk over a professor during class, like you're gonna get kicked out. And or is that's even too negative? How would you turn that more positively?
Yeah, so you're a Carver Ram. We do things excellently, and we also produce scholars who go to college. So they don't just get their high school degree, they go to college, and right now, this is the class that most affects your ability to go to college. Let's get straight back to work, do that Carver Ram, you know? Like, because that is true. This is the barrier right now to college, the ACT. But the framing of like positively, like we send kids to college, that's who we are. So not even presenting another option.
Okay.
Do you want to try that?
Yeah.
So low level talking.
Okay, struck me in 3, 2,